welcome to Across the Arts. My name is Michael Cox. Joining me today is the writer of Cargo, Cormac Quinn. So, Cormac, first of all, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
How would you explain Cargo to an unsuspecting audience?
It's really, Michael, it's really two separate but linked stories. In simple terms, it's really about energy, and I guess both plays in different ways hopefully reflect a lot of the issues around the future of the human race to some extent, in hopefully not too melodramatic a tone. One is a love story, which is about people's love for a particular individual who doesn't appear in the show, and the second half is a separate story about another love story, but it's a love story very much about the people who are on the stage and how their relationship is threatened by an outside force. And there's a link back to the first play, hopefully revealing something about what had transpired in the first play. But as I said, it's sort of, in my mind when I wrote these pieces, they were part of a kind of a three-story, three short stories, all linked by the idea of, I suppose, where we're going, politically, economically, in terms of our future energy supplies, our consumption of our natural resources, and both plays in different ways, I hope, and address this through the stories that they tell.
Now, looking at the poster, I see a suitcase. I believe there's a suitcase that's involved.
I guess both plays, I suppose, deal with different kinds of cargo, and probably from the poster you saw it's kind of an amalgamation of a container, a corrugated container, and a suitcase. The first play talks about something that is in a suitcase, and without obviously trying to give it away, essentially it's about someone who's come up with something marvellous and fantastic that will solve all the world's problems, potentially. In the second piece, there's all sorts of cargo. It's a cargo warehouse. There's something in one of the containers, but also there's a pregnant woman on the stage who's carrying a very precious cargo, and it's really about the power of the love of people in both those plays to overcome their mistrust of situations and the dangers they face.
Now, you were talking about an energy source. But was that the jumping off point for this play? For you?
It was really funny, actually, Michael. When I think back, actually, I like to sometimes write when I don't know about other people, but I really like sometimes listening to music, not always. And there was a strange synchronicity to the origin of this play, where I was thinking about a modern spy thriller. I really liked the Harry Palmer films of the late 1960s with the sharp angles of Michael Caine, and I missed that kind of Cold War feel, and I thought, well, there's no real Cold War here anymore, so I wanted something that had the same resonance or the same power. And then I thought, well, you know, we're all rushing headlong towards some kind of energy crisis in the next 30 years. That's going to have to be some kind of crunch in terms of both large countries fighting and also individuals. And I thought, what would happen if someone came up with something fantastical? Would they be delivering it secretly to somebody? Would they be working for the Green Movement? Would they be working for a major corporation? So I had the idea of someone meeting in a burger bar, and thinking of Douglas Adams' Big Bang Burger Bar as well, and just a kind of a handover happening. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say that one of the strange kind of synchronous things that happened was I was listening to a piece of music by a crazy Icelandic instrumentalist called Jimmy Tenor, and the piece was called Tesla. And in a funny kind of way, I started thinking about Nikola Tesla and about these crazy ideas he had at the turn of the century at Wardenclyffe and drawing energy down from the ionosphere and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, wow, this was crazy stuff, but he was just crazy enough to pull it off, given the fact that he actually built or helped build the Niagara Falls Dam and hydroelectricity and alternating current and all that kind of stuff. So somebody now may make that same leap in terms of scientifically or otherwise, and I think that intrigued me. So yeah.
Now, you're talking about spy stories that you really liked. I mean, I certainly, not to age myself, but I certainly remember the Cold War stories, which, as you're right, we don't really have those right now. It's kind of ticking bomb stories that we've got right now, and Chase the Terrorists. Were there any spy stories that you found kind of inspirational when you were writing this piece?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it was probably the spy who came from the cold. As I said, the Harry Palmer. It was just that sense of two opposing forces, and again, space being organised in a strange way. You cross the river from one Cold War place to the free land and all the rest of it, and secrets pass between them. And also the fact that everything and everyone looked plausibly the same, and yet they weren't, and they were carrying things that were exotic or strange, or and I liked that complexity, and I also liked the kind of the mood of that. Again, I guess it was probably late 60s, early 70s. There was a real kind of ambience or mood to that, probably much more exotic than it really was, but that really appealed to me, and I guess that was kind of, as you say, kind of a jumping off point for me in terms of starting the story.
Now, most people, when they start on a new artistic endeavor, be it as a director, an actor, or a writer, they kind of take a journey. They kind of learn something. There's something that might surprise them through the research or through the process of creating the work. Was there a discovery that you made in this, maybe through the research or maybe in the writing of this, something that surprised you?
Absolutely. I think for me it was the connection to Tesla, which was made accidentally by listening to a piece of music that happened to be on my listening list when I was writing the initial draft of the play. And in looking more into Tesla, and I had a kind of rudimentary understanding of him, I realised that his life really was quite exotic, and he was quite an exotic character. And I think that the character that I wrote in the first half of the play, Schwarzschild, is, I have to say, he's a nod towards Tesla in terms of his idiosyncrasies and possibly, my imagined outlook in terms of what Tesla might have thought had he been around today. I mean, he really was quite a fantastical character, and I really wanted to kind of, tip the hat to him, I guess, and wish that maybe someone like him would pop up again for us.
I'd be so lucky. Good. Now let's talk about the rehearsal process, because again, most writers will tell you that it's one thing to write a piece; it's another to see it in the hands of actors. Has there been a discovery that you've made once this play's gone into rehearsal?
Absolutely. I think for me, one of the great learning things is I tend to be a first draft person, where I spend a long time with the first draft, and that tends to be the final draft. Other writers think they're probably better at writing a series of drafts and refining it. But for me, the kind of the second draft or the final draft has actually been even just hearing the actors say the words, and it's done a wonderful thing. It's followed Stephen King's great advice about 10% less, where you end up chopping, and that's been great. That's been wonderful. I'm one of those writers who actually quite enjoys losing lines, so that's been really interesting, and also just the physicality of the actors. That's the wonderful thing. It's out of your control. They bring a whole other level of meaning, which is unintentional to some extent, but actually, if you're lucky, and I think I am with the cast of this play, it enhances my words beyond their original intention. So yeah, I think I learned a lot actually.
Opening night, April 12th.
Yep.
Is there a moment or an idea that you're kind of looking forward to and seeing in front of the audience that night?
So many moments, as long as they all go right, Michael, I don't mind. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the other wonderful things about that opportunity to actually have your words said in front of an audience is the unexpected, where hopefully they'll laugh where you intended, but maybe they won't. Maybe they'll laugh in a different place, and you'll worry about whether that was the right thing, or an audience reaction is always wonderfully unpredictable. Sometimes you think an audience loves your play because they all seem to be laughing and enjoying it, but actually it's the audience who are quiet who take it all in and really enjoy it. It's very hard to tell, so I just hope they enjoy it really, and it all goes swimmingly well.
I'm sure they will, and I'm sure it will. Cargo opens April 12th at the Space in Glasgow and performs till April 13th. Thank you for joining us at the Across the Arts.